Hey everyone, good afternoon. This is Eleanor with Eleanor's Elite Radio. Today I'm very happy to announce I've been waiting about 2 weeks for this interview. Her name is Marsha Ceniceros, and she is a renowned author of many, many books. I'll have her all fill you in on all of them. And her latest is God Answered. Is that it? Marsha, tell me again, is it God Answered Me?
God Answered Me, Chapter 2.
Chapter 2. Anyway, everyone, help me welcome Miss Marsha. Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, thank you.
Oh, it's so nice to speak with you again. We've had this wonderful, we had a great interview the first time you wrote your first chapter.
Yes, that was a while back.
Yeah.
it took me a while to get Chapter 2 out.
Well, it's an emotional book, and maybe you can fill my listeners in a little bit on the progress of your book. Or let's start from the beginning, because there's a couple of people maybe that didn't hear you.
Okay, on the first one, the introduction of God Answered Me, I explained what happened with my parents' lives and how child maltreatment strung along throughout the family and through our lives, and how I lost my oldest sister due to that. In Chapter 1, I went on to explain more of my life and the experiences that I experienced. And then Chapter 2, I went on to my brother's lives and what their lives were like with this child maltreatment, how it affected their life. And Chapter 3, the book that I'll have out in about 2 months, will go on to their demise and my youngest sister's demise.
I read Chapter 1, and I read also a little bit of Chapter 2. I've had a few issues here on this end that have kept me quite busy the past couple of weeks. But at any rate, I have always admired your writing, and I feel you're such a strong individual, strong woman, powerful. I don't know how many other words I can use to describe you, but you really are quite an inspiration. Can we touch base a little bit about Chapter 2? Would you mind, or?
That's perfectly fine. Go right ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to, I know Chapter 1, you have to remind me a little bit. I didn't have the chapter into my book. I didn't have it on my computer. I'm sorry. So I don't really remember, but how did we progress? Now tell me what Chapter 2 is about again.
Chapter 2, that's the one that was just released today.
Okay.
And this one has to do with my older siblings. Yes, two of my older siblings, Keith and Ron, how child maltreatment affected them throughout their lives. Right. And it destroyed their life. And they both died early from this. A lot of people don't realize how child maltreatment can affect a child,
Right.
And it's just, Keith, he ended up dying at a very young age. Ron did too. They were both gay. They were both molested. And they had to deal with not only relatives, they had to deal with, our parents. And our parents didn't have a good logic when it came to raising children.
Right. Can you give a little background on your parents and what it was like growing up?
What it was like growing up was, in a way, it's kind of strange to me because growing up was, everything that happened was natural because I wasn't exposed to other people, other families to see how they lived. And I thank God that the child abuse didn't affect me as it affected my other siblings. And my father, he was abused. My mother, she was abused. And my father, he was the type of man that hated people. He hated everyone. It didn't matter what color you were. He hated you. And he loved Hitler. And many times we had to stand up in a line and listen to lectures of Hitler for 2 to 3 hours. And we had to listen to how worthless we were. We were not considered children. We were considered animals.
Now, I'm sure you've been asked this many times, but your father must have been mentally ill, correct? Or maybe not. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yes, my father had a lot of problems. The problem is that he never sought medical help, and neither did my mother. You know, she was damaged also.
Yeah. Now,
and
go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was believed throughout the family if you needed a doctor, then you were insane to begin with. You know, it's something that they were brought up with, that they taught us.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I had 6 brothers, and I had 3 other sisters.
Wow.
I have 1 sister left.
It kind of makes you wonder why your mom kept having children, I think, if she kind of knew, or maybe she, poor thing, didn't even have a choice in the matter, really.
No, she never wanted children from, to begin with, but she never had that choice. My father, he ruled birth control at that time. You had to have permission from the husband in order to be on birth control.
Right.
And he was totally against that. With the last child, number 10, she almost died from that experience.
Now, how many siblings are alive today besides yourself?
There's me, 3 brothers, and 1 sister.
Wow, that's it? 4?
That's it.
Total of 4 out of 10?
Yes.
And I don't want to pry too much personally, so you'll have to tell me when to stop, but were they self-inflicted deaths for your brothers and sisters, or, how did they pass? Was it just from illness? Was it self-inflicted?
Well, the first death was my youngest sister, Patricia. She was 20 years old. The thing about that is that she knew she was going to die. And she kept telling me that. She says, I'm going to die before I'm 21. I know it. I can feel it. It's going to happen. She was very, very wild. She was gay, lesbian. And she got a fake ID. She'd run around. And right before her death, she told my father, there was a huge argument. She told my father, the reason I'm gay is because I hate men and I hate you. And, she started doing drugs and alcohol, and it was a terrible situation. My other sister, Pamela, my oldest sister, she was murdered. Her husband killed her, and then he killed himself. It was a murder-suicide. And she was always hooking up with the wrong type of man because she never felt that she could do better.
Of course, because, when you put a child that's been in a dysfunctional family, for their whole life, and I'm not talking just dysfunction like OCD or, anything mild, but if you put a child in such a volatile, dysfunctional family, there's going to be repercussions as they grow up. It's going to be hard for anybody to make good choices, because especially when they haven't been given any.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Ron, he was gay. He was 41 years old when he died. And he died a horrible death. He died of AIDS. And he was into drugs and alcohol and a male prostitute. And he also served our country for a while.
Right.
Did real good in that. And then Keith, he was lucky. He lived to 59 years old. And the reason he lived that long is he lived his life out in a psychiatric institution.
Oh, my goodness. It's so unbelievable. So you really, in essence, Miss Marsha, are, how's the rest of your siblings? I know you have, vowed to live and make a better life and help children. But how about your other siblings? How are they handling all of that had, transpired?
Well, I'm not close to them except for my sister. She's in New York. And I'm close to her, and she's doing real well.
Oh, that's good.
She's told me that when she read my first one, the introduction, she broke down and cried because it brought back a lot of memories.
Of course, I remember crying, and I wasn't even part of the family. It's a very moving story. It almost sounds made up, and I know it's not. But that's the severity of it. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yes, and this that I'm writing, this is only you might say this is only the top sheet.
Right.
I'm not writing a lot of the other experiences that did happen because I feel that it's it's too much. It's
too much.
Severe.
Yeah. Well, I just can't believe, Marsha, how you have risen above this, and I'm sure you as well as I am. I'm a child advocate. I know you are as well. And are you working with any charities or benefits to help children? I know you do with your writing, but what else? Do you do anything else to help children? Do you work for any other charity or organization?
No, not at this time I don't, but me and my husband, we both donate. And I did work for about 5-6 years as a coordinator for 2 foster family agencies.
Yeah, that's a whole nother realm. Foster care. I mean, in my opinion, being a child advocate and seeing the damage that a lot of these foster children, also receive from various families and being pushed around from family to family. And it's just a horrible situation. I mean, that itself needs a whole new thing there. Those kids need help that are being in foster care. They really do.
Oh, they do. Yeah. And so many of those children, there's nothing wrong with them,
Right.
And it's the parents. The parents, a lot of the parents are inflicting a lot of things upon these children that's very hard to handle.
Yeah.
And they're not looking at the future. They don't see the consequences of what happens to these children.
Right. Marsha, can you tell my listeners a little bit about your other books that you've written?
Sure, I got a great one out. It's called Precedence. Bondage is Part of the Game. And this is a sci-fi crime thriller, and it has everything a reader would want. It has notorious gangsters, it has chases, scary and human creatures, suspicious deaths, and buried secrets. It's about a family torn with a multitude of secrets and betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
And my prize-winning character in this one is Bodon, and he's a Russian assassin, and he gave up his lifestyle and defected to the United States. But in doing so, he made a lot of enemies, and he continued to struggle with not-so-pleasant memories after finding his pregnant wife was the mark of an assassin. And so what he did, he sought revenge. He went back to Russia, and this is where the first part of Bondage, Part of the Game, comes in. And then he comes back to New York. The story revolves around New York, and it ends up going worldwide when he discovers a cover-up, and his inner demons just explode. Now, Bodon is a man that intently stares directly into your eyes when speaking, and he's fantastic. He reminds me of Jason Statham. In the way that he acts. And we have Aaron, who's Bodon's son, and Aaron doesn't find out that he's his son until he's way in his teenage years. And then we have Abram, who's the grandson to Bodon, and he is confused about his individuality and that enormous drive to believe in himself. And then we have Viola. She's Abram's girlfriend. She's the volunteer for the homeless shelter. And then we have Dr. Shayla. Now, she's a scientist. She's a raving beauty, and she's quite insane.
So how many series now does this Precedence, how many series is there to this one book?
This is one book. I am going to do another book to follow, in its steps. And
tell everyone where you can purchase your books, please, because I don't know. I mean, I know, are they sold in the regular bookstores like Books A Million as well?
Yeah, well, you can get it on Amazon. They're all on Amazon. They're all on Barnes & Noble. And then I have some on Lulu.com. Another link where you can get them is Reader's Favorite. We have Goodreads. And I believe there's a few more, but I can't think of them offhand.
That's okay. And everybody can get this information. Can you please give my listeners your website, too?
I have Facebook, which is ML Ceniceros. And then I have Wix.com. It's Marsha L. Ceniceros. And I'm on Twitter, which is ML Ceniceros.
Okay, so these are the ways that everybody can get in touch with you or maybe perhaps even buy the book. And that's at Amazon.com, of course. So you just type in your name and Miss Marsha Ceniceros,